You mentioned something really interesting in your talk about resilience, and that's something that the YMI has done some work on as well. And you encouraged a shift from thinking about resilience to thinking about teaching youth to be anti-fragile, or there was a sense of anti-fragility.
Yeah.
Can you explain what that means and what that looks like?
Yeah. Again, it may be in semantics, but the invitation is to think about it's okay to have stress. It's okay to have challenges. And that our job as helpers is not to help youth avoid challenges, but in fact to help guide them as they navigate through challenges and grow from them. So an example might be a rubber band, right? So we know rubber bands, you can stretch and they kind of withstand all these different stretching and stresses that we cause it to have. But the goal, though, is that the rubber band will always come back to form. That is, it can withstand all of that and still be okay. And I think about that as in our resiliency work. Can this child be resilient against the hardship of life, that their form is not compromised, even despite being stretched and moved? Anti-fragility is more not just going back to your original form, but how do you grow better and because of, right? That after being stretched and after being strained, that now the work is, and now what, right? How do you grow from that? How do you build from that? And I think it comes from a notion of it's okay to let our kids struggle in some developmentally appropriate struggles.
Sure.
That we don't have to get in the space as helpers and parents and so protecting of them and cuddling of them and bulldozing for them, that we actually rob them the opportunity to try some things out for themselves. I often in my talks talk about my children, and I think a lot about, they teach me a lot. And both of my kids are riding bikes, and neither one of them use the training wheel. And my little 3.5-year-old just goes and gets on bike, and then she falls, right? And oftentimes I'm that parent where I don't react. She fell. Now we're gonna figure out what to do about that. And my own mother's like, "Oh my God, like, oh, are you okay? What's going on? Like, put some, guard this child. Put the training wheels back on." And I'm like, no, not that I want to see her hurt, but this is part of the learning of bike riding. Right? Even when she's skilled in bike riding, she's still going to fall as part of bike riding. What I have to teach her is what happens when you fall. Don't put your arm down. Right? Fall in a way that you're not going to get really hurt. Or, always have a helmet. Right? There's things you can teach young people about what happens in face of, and that I'm here to support you, right? But not that I'm going to shield you from that, and not that I'm going to help you avoid it, but that this is part of life, and we get better because of it.